I'm Shy Silverleaf and welcome back to another video in my series on short rows and darts. This time we will be covering the left edge wedge in a textured stitch. Now this is actually a little simpler to me than the right edge wedge, but it still follows the same rules as the right edge wedge in that when you're working in a textured stitch you want to pay attention to the number of short rows as well as how far apart they are. For example, this pattern, as you know, is a 2x2 repeat, meaning it's 2 stitches wide by 2 rows tall, or rounds, depending on what you're working at. In this case, I did an odd number, so what has happened is it falls in pattern here, out of pattern here, because we've only got one short row, in pattern in between these two, out of pattern between these two, in pattern in between these two, and if there was more over on this side it would fall back out of pattern. Now, as you can very plainly see, these are side by side, and doing that we've got a rather substantial hole that my finger is sticking through, which I don't like. I do not recommend putting these side by side. Some space. I would do 1 stitch in between each one, especially like the part where it falls out of pattern. I'd want those just 1 stitch wide, 1 stitch in between, so that the amount that it falls out of pattern is very, very small and it's not seen as well. Between the ones where it falls in pattern, I would do I do 1 or more in this particular case because it's seen, but it's back in pattern, so it's not as noticeable. And I'll show you here in about 2 seconds. We will need our cable needles, and we will need our stitch markers and all the fun things that go along with it. All right. Okay. This is our foundation row, and our pattern is Simple Purl, Simple Purl. You guessed it. Small surprise. I keep using this because it's such a small repeat. I can demonstrate a lot of things with it versus something a lot bigger that would be far more complicated trying to do this. Now I do have charts for these, believe it or not, that I can walk you through, and when I am able to, I will print them off and probably tack on an additional video if I don't already have them ready to go, and explain that to you at a later date. Right now I just want to get you through these 2 techniques and combining them. Yes, we will combine them into darts, doing full darts in both flat and in the round. And I want you guys to learn these techniques now so you can go ahead and have your fun with them. Charting is great. I love charts to death. They help solve the mystery of, okay, where does this stitch go again? I seem to say that a lot as I'm working through patterns. And the instructions don't always make it clear where the stitch goes. But the chart, however, usually tells you exactly what the words are speaking of. Okay, we're going to return pass back. And we're going to be doing the same thing as the other. We are going to do 2 simples and 2 purls, and you already know why in this particular stitch pattern not to do an odd number, so I will skip over that. Alright, so I am going to simple my purls, purl my simples, and simple my purls. Had it all backwards. All the way to the end, because remember, with the left edge wedge, we want to stop short on our return pass instead of our forward pass. The forward pass is the right edge wedge. Return pass is the left edge wedge. And we're still going to do the wrap and turn method. Sorry, my imagination is biting me again. Okay, and we are back to the selvage edge, which we do as a selvage edge. There we go, just a regular old selvage edge. And after this series is finally up, I will do back to basics, teaching you how to do regular flat, working Tunisian flat, the basics, and working Tunisian in the round, the basics. I've had a request for that, so I'm going to do it. And hopefully making those videos will take a lot less time than this mess has. You are now seeing why it's taken so long. Oh my goodness, and I am so sorry about that, really I am. I got another series after Back to Basics that I want to do. That's probably going to take a long time to do too. Oh, nuts. Shame on me. This is what I get for yammering. Okay, we were supposed to stop short. You know what? That looks good. Okay. Let me back it up. There we go. You can tell I've had to rip my work back I don't know how many times because I know exactly where to stick my hook. And we will cover that in Back to Basics. Alright, so here is the stitch that we want to stop short on. Here is the return pass. Stick them on the cable. The last two, the one you want to stop short on and the return pass one. Remove your hook. Slide your stitches back away from the end so that they don't slip off. Okay, now once again we are going to take our working yarn between the hook and the cable needle to the front. Move your wrapped stitch to the hook. Okay, push the other one back to about the center or where it's secure of your cable needle. Take your working yarn, go between the hook and the cable needle to bring it to the back in its correct place. Put your, oh that's right, I said we were going to stop on a, well you know what, we'll make these pearls. Yeah, we'll make these pearls. Okay, put your return pass loop back on your hook. Snug it up. Now here's the fun part, where to put your stitch marker. We have two loops it looks like. This is the purl bump and what's above it is our actual wrap. So what I'm going to do is if you look in between, where are you? In between you'll find the wrap. I like, in this case, since it's a little confusing, to grab the wrap, pull it forward so you can definitely tell there is no doubt that is the wrap. Mark it and then tension it. So see, now it doesn't matter if you get the two mixed up because it is now marked. Okay, we are going to ignore our simple stitch that we just worked, and we are going to go to the purl stitch next to it. And I am going to work it as a simple stitch. You want this kind of snug, just like before, no difference there. So simple, we're keeping in pattern here. Okay, purl, simple the pearls and purl the simples. I saw one bug a second ago and now my brain thinks they're all over me. Not a chance. All the way back to the end. find your salvage edge. There we go. As a normal salvage edge. Return pass back to where you want to stop short. Get back there. And this time I'm going to put one stitch in between. You already saw what happens when you put them side by side. You get a bit of a gap, which we don't like. We don't like them holes. Sizable holes, not cool. Okay, so this is, there's one, no, back it up. Because that wrap will put it side by side. Okay, bing. All right, I had to do a little thinking. Here is our wrapped stitch. This would be one in between, and this is stopping short so that there's one in between. Now we stopped short on a simple, so I'm going to mark, this is going to be orange. Now, same procedure as before. I'm going to take the last two loops, put them on our cable needle, the return pass loop and the loop we want to wrap. Okay, it doesn't matter whether you hold the needle in back or in front, really. It's just a matter of personal preference. Okay, and as you see, I do it either way, so it doesn't matter. All right, take your working yarn, go in between your hook and your cable needle, bring it forward. Okay, put your wrapped stitch back on the hook, push the return pass loop about to the middle so we don't lose it, and don't lose your working yarn in the process. Take your working yarn, bring it between your hook and your cable needle again to the back of the work, put your return pass back on the hook, if it'll go. Okay. All right. Now, in the case of this simple stitch, it's easy to see where the wrap is because you don't have another horizontal yarn to get it confused with. So I'm going to stick the orange one here because this ended up being a simple instead of a purl. Now we have our purl here, which is where we worked our last return pass in. We're going to ignore it and go to the one next to it, which is a simple. We're keeping in pattern. Okay. For this one, it'll fall in and out of pattern when you do the return pass. No, when you do the row that goes across all the short rows. That's where it's going to fall in and out of pattern. Okay, so this is our purl. We're going to simple our purls, purl our simples all the way to the end. And this time I'm going to try and flip-flop them. When I come back and stop on a, see, that was a purl, that was a simple. I'm going to stop on a simple, and then I should be stopping on a purl the next go around. Okay. Actually, I am only going to do 3 so you can really see it fall in and out of pattern. Okay. So we're going to stop on a, what do we say? We said we're going to stop on a simple, and you know what? This one looks good. Here's the simple, here's the purl. Okay, so we're stopping just right here. Same procedure as the other ones. Last 2 loops on your cable needle without dropping anything. Okay, you're going to, I like to hold this end of the cable needle so that the split is right in between the two, and it makes it easier to figure out where you're going to pull your working yarn through, because if you hold the other end, who knows where it could end up. So bring your working yarn between your hook and your cable needle forward. Move your wrapped stitch back onto the hook, the return pass loop back to the middle. Getting everything all jumbled up. There we go. Okay, just had to reposition my working yarn there so you could see. Now we take our working yarn, put it, I'm holding the cable needle the exact same way I was holding it the other way so I don't get this twisted this time. Working yarn between your hook and your cable needle to the back, and then your return pass loop back on your hook. Okay, snug it down. This was a simple stitch, so there's no extra horizontal yarn to get it confused with. So pull it out. Now remember, if you're doing this in a textured stitch like purl, and you have that horizontal bump, look for what's in between your return pass loop and your wrap stitch and pull that forward so that you have a big old loop. Mark it and then tension it a little on the snug side. Okay, that way you don't get it confused with the other yarn that happens to be there that's part of the stitch. Okay, so ignore that. Now, we have our purl. That was last work with our return pass. So we skip that one, we go to the next, which is a simple stitch. So that means we need to, you guessed it, purl it. Purl, simple, the purl, and purl the simples. All the way back to our return pass. Okay. Now we need to deal with all of our short row odd loops. On the way back, we're going to do it the same way we did our, if I can find the correct one, where'd you go? There you are. The same way we did the simple example in the previous video. So you're going to stop just before your wrap stitch. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Sorry, I got a box bugging me. Yarn over, pull through 2, all the way to just before the wrapped stitch. Just like before, okay? You're going to take your return pass loop and your wrapped loop off your hook and onto a cable needle. Move it to the other end of your cable needle. Hold onto your stitches. Grab your wrap, bring it up onto the cable needle, and slide it away from the tip so you don't lose anything. Position your odd loop so it's in between the other 2 stitches. Should be your return pass loop, your odd loop, and your stitch loop. Okay? Then put all 3 loops back onto the hook, making sure your stitch marker is in front. Then yarn, retension your return pass, because I dropped my working yarn there for a second. Yarn over, pull through 3, okay, instead of 2. We're going to work back just as normal until we get to our wrapped stitch, which is right here, okay. Once again, you're going to take the last 2 loops, your return pass and your wrapped stitch, off your hook and onto a cable needle. Push it to the other end of the cable needle because we still got to deal with the wrap. Pull the wrap up and over the cable needle. Push everything towards the center. Make sure your wrap goes in between your return pass and your stitch. Transfer everything back onto the hook. So you've got your stitch, you've got your odd loop, odd short row loop, and you've got your return pass. Retension your return pass, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. Your return pass, your odd short row loop, and your what was your wrapped stitch. So all 3. Ta-da! Yarn over, pull through 2, and once again, rinse and repeat. Onto your cable needle, other end of your cable needle, pull the wrap onto your cable needle, position your wrap in between the 2, and this might take a little finagling. Basically, the reason why I had you pull the wrap kind of snug on all of them, whether it's textured or otherwise, is so that when you put it back on the hook to work it, it's about the same tension as the others. If you had done it at regular tension as the others, this would be kind of big and a little more noticeable. You don't want it too tight, otherwise you can't get it onto your cable needle. But you don't want it too loose either, so it's noticeable. Now, transfer the 3 loops back onto your hook. Yarn over, pull through your return pass, your odd loop, and the stitch next to it. Come here, you. Okay. And return pass for me as normal all the way to the end. Now, if you look right now, it doesn't really look like anything's fallen out of place. Remember what I said, that it would be the next row working over top of this that you would see it falling in and out of place. So it should fall in place, out, in, out. So this is a purl, so we start with the simple. And I'm going to keep in pattern with this part and ignore when it falls out of pattern. Okay, so that was a purl. I simpled the purl and I purl the simple. As before, we're going to ignore the odd loop. There is no stitch attaching to it. So I put my thumb over top so I do not work it. And do my simple. Push this over. Okay, so that was a simple. So the next is a purl. And look, I'm doing a purl over a purl. Okay, so this is going to form the U's that you were seeing. So simple, purl, simple, purl, simple, and I've got my thumb over the odd loop so I do not accidentally work it. Shove it over, work the loop next to it. Remember, this isn't connected to the stitch. Let's see, purl, simple, so this is a purl. Yeah, this is a purl, and look, we're back to purling our simples. This is where it's falling back into place. But the other one, we could see it with the right edge wedge, we could see it fall in and out of place immediately. With the left edge wedge, it takes one more row for it to fall in and out of place. Okay, purl, simple, purl, simple, purl, simple. Now we've come back to where our short row was. We're going to ignore our odd loop. Okay, now I'm holding it down with my thumb and I'm going to push down with my middle and index finger. Normally I push down with just my middle finger, but I am not about to do that on video because that is not polite. It's not nice. I don't even think about it when I do it in real life and nobody says anything, thanks to heavens, because it's completely unintentional, I assure you. I do not wish ill on anybody. I'm weird. Anywho, alright, so we did simple purl, we ignore the odd loop, and now we're about to simple a simple. It's falling back out of place again. All the way to, come on you, my selvage stitch. And then I'll do, get up there. There we go. There we go. It's normal selvage edge and normal return pass back. And once again, I do not remove my odd loop my short row stitch markers until I am a good 3-4 rows away from it. Especially with textured stitches, because it is easy to get all mixed up. Because you're making your hook do all kinds of things, including sit up and dance, stand up and dance, sit up and sing, however you want to put it. Okay, so now we have a simple here, so I'm going to purl my simple and simple my purls. And with what I did on the last row, I'm ignoring these. It'll be a lot easier to find your pattern as you're going, because we've already done the hard part. And I'm going to do one more row after this so that you can really see. You know what? No, I'm not. all the way over. Selvage edge is a selvage edge. Come on here. Okay, return pass back as normal. Sorry, I have an itch. Oh, come on. It's supposed to be yarn over pull through 2, not through 3. My yarn's getting tired. I think I might be due. Okay. Now with that mess done, let's take a look at what we've done. Okay, now you can see that it falls in pattern. And it falls out of pattern because you have a bit of a U here, but it's so small, it's less noticeable, like I had said. In pattern very nicely. And look, now we're back to being out of pattern. We've got these giant, funky U's that just don't look very good. So in this case, I would have done a second one close to it so that the other side, excuse me, 1, 2, 3, 4, a fourth one close to 1 stitch away from the third one. Or possibly 2 if you want to stay in pattern, so that the other side of this falls back into pattern, because if we have a lot more fabric on this side, it's going to look way out of whack doing that. Now let's examine for holes. This one was a purl that we stopped on, and as you can see, oh, we got a little bitty hole right about there, but no different than anywhere else. Now let's see what the, as you can see with the doing the simple, we got a little bit bigger hole. Yeah, look at that. Personally, between me and the fence post, I prefer to stop on a purl stitch instead of a simple stitch. Now how on earth could I tell what stitch I stopped on? Remember, the stitch next to it is what we wrapped, and see, we have a line and a line, a vertical line, which is our simple stitch, and then beside this we have our vertical line and we have our purl here. That's how I can tell with this particular one what I stopped on is looking beside where the wrap is, because the top, remember, we returned past them together. So I would strongly recommend, in the case of dragon scale, you stop on your purls only, which means that instead of stopping 1 stitch apart, because remember when we came back it ended up 1 stitch was a simple stitch apart, I would stop on another purl and have 2 stitches apart, just to keep the holes minimal and our spots where it's falling out of pattern minimal as well. Okay, I hope you have found this technique as informative and inspiring as the right edge wedge. Join me next time when we take both of them and really throw them together for a full dart, combining both the left edge wedge and the right edge wedge, as you see. I will see you then with Hook at the Ready. This is Shy Silverleaf, and I will see you then with Hook at the Ready.